Hey guys, if you weren't aware, the plan with all these custom Super Mario Bros. Wonder levels I've been making is to eventually compile them all into a mod and release them that way. But if I want to mimic the original game's overall structure, traditional levels alone won't be enough. So that's why I recently made my very first custom badge challenge level. What's really cool about the way this level type is implemented into the game is that it's easy to change which type of badge gets applied in which level, including badges that don't have challenge levels in the original game. So for the longest time now, I've thought about making a badge challenge level that makes use of the safety bounce badge, which allows you to jump out of pits and deadly liquids once after touching the ground. One part of this that was a bit of a hassle was this sign that appears at the start of every badge challenge level. The type of badge that gets displayed here isn't necessarily tied to which badge gets equipped in the level. This object has a separate selection of preset badge emblems it can display, which only includes the ones used in the original game's badge challenge levels, none of which are the Safety Bounce's blue badge type. So before starting work on the level, I had to make a high-resolution texture and model for this blue badge design, including a custom-made high-resolution version of the Safety Bounce emblem and normal maps and mix zero textures and all that jazz. I'm very happy with how this thing turned out considering it was made from scratch, and since I'm planning on making more badge challenge levels using some of the other blue badge types, this was worth the effort. So with that out of the way, let's talk about how the level design process itself went. By far the biggest challenge of making this level was adapting to the different norms of badge challenge levels. Over the past decade or so, I've developed an almost subconscious understanding of traditional 2D Mario level design, meaning I barely even have to think about the overarching structure of my normal levels these days. But in many ways, Wonder's badge challenge levels are antithetical to traditional levels. The way mechanics are developed, the way power-ups are spread throughout the level, the placement of checkpoints, the distribution of collectibles, the use of enemies, all of it is very different in badge challenge levels. I'm very happy with how this level turned out, but I'm still not quite sure if I nailed these aspects of typical badge challenge design, and honestly I'm not even sure if I should care to do so. The whole concept of these kinds of levels is so new and specific to Wonder that I'd rather prioritize making my own badge challenges as good as possible, as opposed to specifically sticking to how they were designed in the original game. Having said that, something which I did decide to embrace is the badge challenge approach to purple 10 coins. I tend to enjoy making my collectibles quite hidden or hard to get to, usually by putting them in puzzle-focused bonus rooms. But the original game's badge challenges don't feature a single bonus room, so I decided breaking that rule for my own badge challenge would be a bridge too far. So against my normal preferences, all the purple 10 coins in this level are pretty easy to get to. There's a number of reasons why I chose the factory theme for this level. First of all, it's both a theme I haven't used before in one of my levels, and the original game also doesn't feature any factory-themed badge challenges. But beyond that, my ideas for this level's mechanics could also really only work in this theme. So the safety bounce badge doesn't just allow you to bounce off of lava, but also any other object that uses lava collision, including lava geysers. But the weird thing about the lava geysers in Wonder is that which lava color they use is hard-coded to the level slot they appear in, meaning they only appear as normal red-ish lava in the 1 World 6 level slot where they're used in the original game. I believe there technically is a janky way to get around this, but I didn't need to look into that in this case because the weird purple and green geysers were a perfect fit for this level. Another unique aspect of badge challenge levels is the fact that you can't lose a life in them. This is particularly useful in this level because the lava bouncing gimmick makes it very likely for people to die. You might think that makes no sense. How can you die to the lava if you can bounce on it? But remember that the safety bounce badge only allows you 1 bounce per jump. So if you hit the lava after bouncing on it once, you'll still die. I realize that detail is something a lot of people likely won't comprehend going into this level, but that's totally fine because, again, there's no punishment for dying. So as opposed to normal Mario levels, badge challenges can rely on a trial and error gameplay cycle that's normally reserved for more difficult games. Of course, bouncing on stationary lava on its own is a mechanic that gets stale pretty quickly, which is why the majority of this level focuses on moving lava. I was originally going to combine the moving lava with either buzzy beetles or the kerpop enemies that I also used in my other recent lava level, but both of those display orange lava particles even when interacting with the green lava for some reason. So I was sort of forced to settle for the less interesting metal gambus that the level ended up using. Including enemies in a badge challenge level is something that the original game barely does, but I just couldn't stand the emptiness of an entire level without any enemies, so who cares. I made the majority of this level using normal terrain semi-solids, but as I was working on the last section, I realized the original game's factory levels almost exclusively use special decorative semi-solids instead. So I ended up going back through the whole level and replacing all the terrain I'd made with these special semi-solids, which required me to rework some sections because those semi-solids could only be a very specific width. The slightly awkward thing about designing a level around the player bouncing on lava is that doing this only barely bounces you higher than a normal running jump. This problem is exacerbated by the fact that the lava usually has to be placed lower than the normal level terrain because that's just how liquids work. This is what made designing sections using rising lava so appealing, because this inherently forces the player to make use of the lava bounce. There actually are quite a few jumps in the level that you can get around with a well-placed wall jump or ground pound cancel, but there are also plenty of jumps that you can't skip in this way, so I don't think that's a big deal. The biggest challenge of designing this last vertical auto-scrolling section was that I had to make sure the section was manageable for less experienced players, but also not boring for more experienced players. So I hid a number of optional coin secrets in the section, including the third purple 10 coin, to make sure players will generally always have something to do whilst waiting on the auto-scroll. And timing the jumps with the rising lava can actually be surprisingly tricky, so even if it might not look like it, I think this section makes for an appropriate finale for the level's mechanics. Honestly, one of the biggest problems I had while designing this level was that I just had too many interesting ideas. As I'm sure you've noticed, this level has ended up being quite a bit larger than the original game's badge challenges, but I could have easily taken it several steps further and turned this into a full-length level. But instead I decided to rein back on some of my crazier ideas and save those for a potential second safety bounce badge challenge. Because I'd come up with so many ideas ahead of time, and because I didn't have to worry about any crazy specific puzzle bonus room setups or anything, I actually managed to make the bulk of this level in a single day, which, even considering its smaller size, is basically unheard of in terms of my normal level creation speed recently. The way badge challenge levels are usually decorated, with a bunch of checkerboard pattern blocks randomly scattered throughout the terrain, is something I wasn't originally sure if I would recreate for this level. It's an aesthetic that I don't really think jives well with the factory theme, but then again I would also say the same thing for the normal lava theme, and yet it did feature those blocks in the original game's badge challenges. So after the level was basically finished, I went back through everything I'd made and added those blocks into the walls, and I'm actually very happy with the way I managed to integrate them. And yeah, that's it for the time-lapse, so let's check out the level in-game. Okay, and here we are. So we have the normal style of menu here, which appears at the start of every badge challenge, and I really wanted to make the mechanic very clear at the start here, so we have this very obvious coin arc and a mini wonder bud and whatnot to sort of indicate to the player where to go and what to do. There's also a lot of talking flowers throughout this level, because that's also sort of typical for badge challenges, and speaking of which, we also have a very, very simple purple 10 coin there, because once again, just sort of typical badge challenge stuff. I do really like this little like reverse setup here with the using the same lava geyser multiple times. I also, actually speaking of which, I really like this setup as well with the Wonder Bud that takes a second, so you have to bounce on the lava once and then you can jump onto the bone platform. I think it's pretty neat. And I mean, the bone platforms in here, also the rising and lowering liquid is already a mechanic I've used in one of my previous levels, but I think that's totally fine because like that's just sort of typical for badge challenges to reuse mechanics. Though I haven't used the metal gambus so far. Okay, am I alive? I'm alive. Okay, cool. This section can be a bit tricky with the timing of the rising and lowering lava, just because you can only bounce on the lava once per jump, if you remember. So that can be a bit difficult. Also, there's actually a pretty cool secret over here with this this 10 coin block here and the talking flower and whatnot, just to, you know, add a bit more interest to the level. And actually going into this pipe might be easier than going into the main route pipe, because that one can be quite tricky. And yeah, here we have the final evolution of mechanics, basically, with this rising lava section. And like I talked about during the time-lapse, it was a bit of a challenge making this section interesting for new players and also for like more experienced players. So that's why there's a bunch of different coin secrets and whatnot all over the place. This jump can actually be quite difficult, because you can see I only just barely made it there, and I actually like delayed my jump quite a bit. And also getting this jump from over where the purple 10 coin is can be quite difficult, but there we go. And yeah, I really like this talking flower that follows us throughout the entire section. That's a pretty cool touch. This camera here can be a bit annoying, it just doesn't quite work the way I wanted to, but whatever. And yeah, that's the end of the level and also the end of the video, therefore. So if you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like and consider subscribing or whatever. I also have a Discord server and channel memberships, so maybe also consider looking into those. But thank you so much for watching, and bye bye!